I'm Josh Allen, and welcome to the Baked In Podcast, where I sit down with industry innovators to uncover the unique ideas and values that are baked into their businesses and have led to extraordinary success. This podcast is presented by Busey Bank. Since Busey opened their doors in 1868, they've upheld the pledge to foster customer relationships and vibrant communities, embodying a legacy of partnership and progress. With multiple lines of business, Busey provides a range of financial solutions tailored to your needs. From digital banking to planning for retirement, Busey is here to help you achieve your financial goals. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. This one is super special to me. My mom, Judy Allen, who passed away in January of 2024, was a lifelong animal rescuer and an active supporter of the Humane Society of Missouri. This week, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Cliff Redford, better known as Dr. Cliff Worldwide Vet. Shout out to Dana Dean, a former St. Louis TV personality who now lives on the East Coast, for introducing us. Dr. Cliff has been running Wellington Veterinary Hospital in Ontario, Canada for 25 years, but his impact stretches far beyond the clinic walls. From treating foxes and bald eagles at Canada's busiest wildlife rehab center to performing surgery on a monkey in the streets of India, his journey is anything but ordinary. We'll talk about the making of his award-winning documentary, Dr. Cliff Worldwide Vet, the leadership lessons he's learned from working in war zones and remote communities, and how involving his kids in his work has shaped both his family and his legacy. If you've ever wondered how passion, purpose, and a little bit of risk can transform a career, this one's for you. Let's roll. Well, I'm thrilled. I think as I mentioned, so Dana Dean, for our listeners, Dana was a TV personality here in St. Louis and now lives in New York. And she introduced us, so I'm thrilled. Mm-hmm. But what you may or may not know, I don't know if she mentioned to you, but my mom was a huge animal advocate. She was the president of the Humane Society Association for a long time. There's a wing named after her in the Humane Society building. I grew up with 6 dogs and 6 cats on a full rotational level all the time. So we had, that was just sort of life. And she would bring dogs in, bring animals in, get them adopted, get them out. She was just the most compassionate person. So when Dana kind of threw this out there as an opportunity, I was thrilled for the chance to talk to you. So thanks for joining me today.
Yeah. And, obviously my condolences for the loss of your mother, but what a great memory and what a great honor, to have a wing named after her. And beautiful story, beautiful memory.
Really, all of our kids have become animal. I mean, it's great, and it's kind of continuing on. But I kind of wanted to start, and I know there's a lot of things to talk to you about, but I sort of wanted to start with the documentary that you just released. I know it hasn't been released in the States, so I think that's still coming. It was released in Canada middle of May, right? So It's been a handful of months, and this was a self-produced documentary that you and your daughter went to India during the Festival of Lights. But tell me a little bit about it. I know that you had, from reading, you had tried to pitch a TV show for a long time, sort of maybe coming out of that interview series or the internet radio show. Just sort of tell me how we got there, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it started. I did that local TV call-in show, loved it, only did it for a year, then did this radio show, but the TV bug bit me, and I started to pitch to just any producer that would meet with me, and there weren't that many that would, about doing a veterinarian show. And I eventually developed the hook that it was going to be an adventure travel show. And 9 years ago, almost to the day, I traveled to Jamaica, volunteered for 3 weeks, brought a small film crew, paid these graduating students and pizza, beer and plane tickets, and they were happy to take the gig. But then the traveling and the volunteering really, I fell in love with. And then my daughter joined me. And so we ended up doing trips all over the world. We've done, 5 or 6 trips, continually pitching. And we got so close to making this TV show and getting it greenlit, but never got it actually made. And everyone loved the idea. So I just decided one day I was going to take a second mortgage out of my house and finance and do it proper, with this award-winning film crew in India, a award-winning director, friend of mine that joined me. And we filmed this documentary, got it into film festivals, won a bunch of awards. It has opened some doors, and the conversation has begun again about a TV show, but I recognize it's still a long shot. But yeah, we ended up doing this amazing trip, and it was the story, and I should say it has been bought by a broadcaster in the US. I'm not allowed to say who, and I don't exactly know when they're going to make it available in the US, but it could be next week. It could be next year. I have no idea.
Yeah, the trailer's on YouTube, but that's as far as I could get in my...
Yeah, I mean, if you have one of those VPN things, you can watch it at the TVO YouTube channel. Like if you just do YouTube TVO Dr. Cliff, it'd probably come up, but it'll come to little screens in the US soon. And the film is not only an animal adventure film, but also kind of an adventure travel and cultural experience type show. We sort of joke that it's Anthony Bourdain meets, the Incredible Dr. Paul sort of thing. And we went to Diwali. We went to India during the Festival of Lights, during Diwali, not only to show that experience and what a beautiful festival and beautiful tradition, but unfortunately, the Festival of Lights has a bit of a dark side, and those fireworks and the noises and the lights scare and hurt a lot of animals. So we kind of were able to show the dichotomy of that situation. It was a life-changing experience, as all of these trips have become. And while I would love for it to turn into something that we could share with the world on TV, I'm still glad I did it, and I just keep paying off the bills. That's all I can do.
So which did the adventure travel, worldwide veterinary care come first, or did the idea for the TV show and trying to pitch it lead to the adventure travel?
Yeah, it was actually the TV show came first. So I was meeting with these producers, 10, 11 years ago, and they were all saying, okay. And I was just sort of talking to them about, hey, I want to do a vet show. I'm personable. I'm able to communicate. I'm good in front of a camera. I have experience. And they all said, that's great, but what's your hook? It has to be something different. It can't just be another vet show. It's going to be too hard to get it made. And at the time, I was learning Mandarin. There's a lot of Mandarin speaking clients and Mandarin speaking people in my city. And I had a friend that was living in Beijing, and I was going to go there, volunteer, practice my Mandarin. And then that's when the idea came to add the TV show to it. So I guess I was going to volunteer first, but I was also looking for this idea. That fell through. Something about a Westerner with a camera filming animal treatment in China. They said might not go over too well with the Chinese government. So we did Jamaica. And so Jamaica, although I went and I volunteered, and it was 3 hard weeks of work, long hours. We did go with a film crew, with a sort of a junior film crew. So, maybe it was a hybrid. I don't know. But, since then, a lot of my trips have been without. I don't do any with film crews anymore. I've got enough footage. And yet I'm still volunteering. The last 2 Januaries, I went up to the Arctic Circle, the Arctic north of Canada, when it was minus 40 degrees and no sunlight, and volunteered there at a vet clinic that has no bed anymore. So now, this TV show dream has introduced me to a new life, and it's now become sort of my retirement plan, which is kind of nice to know. I'm at least a decade away from retiring, at least. But it's nice to know what I'm going to be doing when I'm not running my clinic anymore.
Yeah, there was an interview or an article that I read where it talked about it was something that happened when you were in Ukraine. So you were there during the war doing some veterinary work, and there was something about that experience that sort of pushed you over the edge to take this sort of bold step of just, I'm going to self-produce this thing and make this thing happen on my own because I can't get anybody else to do it. What was that experience like, and what was the impetus there that changed where you were?
Yeah, the experience was I almost got hit with a missile. Basically, my life was at risk. I had gone to Ukraine, or to volunteer with the Ukrainian people twice. The first one was at the border of Polish and Poland and Ukraine, in Poland, and my daughter joined me there. This was 3 weeks into the war starting, and we were basically helping people that were crossing the border with their pets, and the pets needed to be vaccinated before Poland was going to receive them, which is understandable. So I was there to help the people escape this dangerous conflict by helping them take care of their pets. But I fell in love with the Ukrainian people, so I ended up 3 summers ago by myself, for obvious reasons, without my daughter. I went into Kharkiv, which is the southern eastern. Kharkiv was one of the first places that was attacked. And all day long, I was there for 10 days working at a clinic where the veterinarian had left, but left the keys with the animal rescue group. And all day long, there was what we call Russian thunder. There was bombings within, a couple of miles of us. Occasionally, the clinic, if it got too close, the clinic would shake, like a subway train was going underneath it while I'm in the middle of surgery. And you just wait. The joke was, if the missile comes close enough, you're not going to have to worry about it because you'll be obliterated. That's how they explained it to me when I asked them, how do we know if it's too close for comfort? But then there was a moment one morning where I was in the little Airbnb flat that I was renting, and I was looking out the window because a couple of bombs had landed close by. I think they were called high ballistic, not missiles, but I'm not much of a military guy, so I don't know the exact thing. But we'll just call it a missile. And the alarms were going off, and I waited the recommended time thinking it was safe. And then, like an idiot, I went to the window and started recording. Well, then another one landed, and it only landed within a couple hundred meters of us. So it got really, really scary. And it just kind of got more stressful from there. Like, we went into the war zone, rescuing animals, delivering medicine, not only for animals, but delivering medicine for people, bringing animals back, bringing people back to help them sort of travel out. And I had already been talking with my friend Diego, who ended up being the director and producer. We had been talking for about a year about, we should just make a movie and as a proof of concept and get it into film festivals. So the joke is, instead of saying, I could die tomorrow by being hit by a bus, I might as well chase my dreams. I could die tomorrow by being hit by a Russian missile, so I might as well chase my dreams. And so I got back and went to the bank and started doing the paperwork. And that was in July of 2022. And we were in India by October. So that's how fast I decided to move on this. And it was just, this is what I want to do. And life's too short to worry about bills. I'm able to pay them. So I'm going to chase my dream. And my kids joke that I was just spending their inheritance, which is true. But they got to experience it with me, or at least my daughter did. So we had a good time.
So where does that leadership skill come from? I mean, how do you build a team in the middle of a war zone to do that? Because you're not in there by yourself. And
yeah, great question. And I've done a lot of these volunteer trips and spay neuter clinics out in the jungle of Panama, and all these trips I've been to India twice, and all these different places. I actually go where the team is, in the sense of I don't know if I just don't like working with a large group of people, and maybe I like being one of the only veterinarians, but I avoid the large scale, 10 veterinarians all going to some resort to do half vacation, half work. I prefer just the work. So I find places where the team is in place. And I have a good skill of keeping my mouth shut and my ears open, and recognizing that even, like when I went to Jamaica, I'd been a veterinarian for 20 years, very good veterinarian. And while I knew I was kind of coming in and I was going to show some high level of skill and maybe teach them, I very quickly learned that although, yes, that was the case, I was also going to learn a lot from them, and especially from the non-veterinarians. So one of the things that I'm able to do is I'm able to go into these places that are often without a veterinarian, and learn from the animal rescuers. They know the diseases that are occurring in the location that I'm traveling to. They know the drugs that are available and the dosaging. And of course, I can double check and be aware of it, but it's very different working in these countries, often underdeveloped, barely out of the third world country status, some of these places, very underdeveloped. And so the tools, the medications, the anesthetic protocols are very, very different. But I have a small team that goes with me. It's usually just my daughter and I, or when we've gone to the Arctic North, I've taken one technician with me, and then we work with the team there. And I think that's a big thing, not only at my clinic that I've owned for 26 years, but on these travel trips, is I may be the big special doctor veterinarian, the boss, but I can't do anything I do without my technicians, my animal care assistants, the people answering the phones, even the volunteers, like all of these people together. It really does take a team to take care of animals and to rescue animals.
So has that changed the way in which you run your business? I mean, has being in these unpredictable, high stakes kind of environments and having to build that team and relying on a group of people, in many instances, folks that you don't know, but has it changed the way in which you run your clinic back in Ontario?
Yeah, and in different ways. First of all, it's really made me appreciate what I have back home, and maybe that's a cliche, but we're very blessed to live in North America. Canada and the US are some of the most, probably the richest countries in the world as far as what we're able to provide our families and ourselves and whatnot. And the level of medicine and surgery in my clinic is top notch. It made me a much better veterinarian. Being able to handle these difficult surgical cases with such limited tools made my job when I came back home much, much easier. It also allowed me to not sweat the small stuff, especially like Ukraine. With that second trip in Ukraine, when I came back, my team, they all said, "You're different. I was always kind of a pretty calm person, but they're just like, you have this zen about you, this zen emotion, where when the client is complaining, you don't get stressed out and you work with them a little bit better. And when the dirt hits the fan, you're calm.
Is that
and
something
calmer.
is that something that you can teach now that you've done it, or is it purely of having been in those environments and those experiences that's allowed you to do that?
No, I think you can definitely teach it. I mean, personal experience is always maybe a better teacher for most things, but I do not recommend people go into a war zone to learn these skills. That's certainly not why I was doing it. But like, for example, we had a woman, she's got one more year of vet school. She graduates in May from Ontario Vet College, which is one of the best schools in the world. And she just finished last week her 2-month placement with us, her summer placement. It's part of the curriculum. And on one of her last days, we had an exceptionally busy day, multiple emergencies, multiple cases of critical medical cases in the clinic. And I was the only veterinarian. And she's basically doing everything she can do a veterinarian's job. Like, she goes and takes a history. We talk about differentials. We talk about drugs. I try and get her, I try and catch her and ask her a question she may not know the answer to, which she seemed to know the answer to all of them. She's a very good student. And one of the things I explained to her is, the crazier it got and the more hectic it got, I said, you have to get even calmer. Like, if you look around, everybody's moving around with this incredible speed and efficiency and purpose and focus, but no one is pulling their hair out. And you got to learn to be calmer the more difficult things get, especially as a leader, because the team, and a lot of my team they're all younger than me. I'm 52, but in the veterinarian world, veterinary technicians and animal care assistants, they're a young group. They're usually probably on average 5 years into the industry. And so they look to the veterinarian, they look to the leader to lead. And if the veterinarian is getting stressed out and seemingly nervous and frustrated, they're going to feel the same, and they're going to end up making mistakes. So it's very, very important that the veterinarian and the leader in any organization show calmness in the face of adversity. And so that was something I'm trying to teach her by example. And hopefully she learned the lesson.
Did you know that businesses can help protect our planet with every sale? That's the idea behind 1% for the Planet, a global movement where companies pledge 1% of their top-line revenue to environmental causes. Since 2002, members have given nearly $700 million to nonprofits tackling critical issues like climate change, conservation, and food insecurity. At Companion Baking, we're proud to be a part of this mission in 2025. We're contributing through local partnerships, like donating $50,000 in baked goods to the St. Louis Area Food Bank and supporting regenerative agriculture through our partnership with ADM. Learn more about how 1% for the Planet is driving change at 1%fortheplanet.org. What about the cultural differences that you face? Like how do you assimilate into those environments in all of these different countries? And then which I guess then you can also apply then back at home in sort of the same idea, but and certainly in the bakery, it's the same as it is in the veterinary clinic in terms of folks looking to the leader, and calm is important in everything, like you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have to, there's a great book that was titled, it was like Generals Eat Last or Admirals Eat Last. And it's basically, you give them their dues and give them their successes before you take your bonus or take your successes. And it's the same thing that I think generals need to sweat last or sweat the least. As far as these cultural differences, so yeah, I thought it was going to be a huge issue. I'm going to countries where the language is not the same, and often we're working with one or two of the people speak English and then the rest don't. So there's translations going on, and then obviously very different religions and very different what I would have thought was appreciation for animals. And that's when I realized very quickly that at least in the circles that I was in, the fascination for animals and the love for animals is what was bringing us together. And even if maybe the dog, the average dog in India, has a different place in a person's life than, say, you and I. We don't call them homeless dogs. They call them street dogs or community dogs because they live outside and they're happy to live outside. We may think that's cruel, but we quickly learn, no, this is what works for the people and for the dog. The dog is very happy because he's getting treats from multiple families now and getting spoiled from multiple families. So we quickly learn to, again, sort of check our egos and recognize that the North American way isn't the only way. And our way is right, but their way is right as well, just in a different manner. And then coming home and my city, we're just outside of Toronto, is incredibly multicultural. And it teaches me, though, not only to appreciate those differences in cultures, but even just recognize that someone may not be able to proceed with the medical recommendations that I make, and it's often financial. It's not always financial. There's other priorities in their life. And I have learned through these travels and just through, gaining gray hairs in my job that it's okay for them to have a slightly, a different opinion. And I have to learn to be able to pivot and work with them in a different manner. And focus on why I'm doing the task, right? I'm there to make the animal better, and I'm there to help the person who's very bonded with their pet take care of their pet in the way that they deem is appropriate, as long as it's not cruel and unusual punishment, of course. So these trips have opened up my eyes to different ways of doing things and the beauty of our differences,
Sure.
frankly, and it gives me fulfillment.
Have you had a guiding set of core values in the business that have evolved or changed through all this international travel, or has it just reinforced a specific a specific set of values that you continue to be able to run your business by and run these external opportunities by as well?
Yeah, I think it's just strengthened my, my desire to help an animal live a better life, and also help the person help their animal live a better life. The big thing with our industry is the client may be the person, but the actual focus isn't the person, it's the patient. And too many veterinarians have a connection only to the patient. They love animals, but they don't really get along with people. That's a common theme in my industry.
That's why they're a vet and not a doctor.
That's right. They say, I love medicine, I love science, and I love animals, but I don't really like people. Well, this has just strengthened, and I do love people. I love chatting with people. I have the gift of the gab, and I like sort of going off topic when I'm in my exam rooms if there's time. But these trips have they've made me fall in love with people more. Like it's just the world is so interesting, and I love now talking to people. I've tried to learn different languages. Right now I'm focusing on Greek for the last 7 years because my wife's Greek, and that's taken all my time because it's by far the most difficult language. But even learning Greek, I was introduced to this brand new culture that has seemed to change the way I think in life. Like I don't know if I'm more philosophical. Maybe Hippocrates is like shining down on me and putting thoughts into my head. Who knows? Plato and all those guys, Socrates as well. So, yeah, I think I've just fallen more and more in love with people, which certainly makes my job more fulfilling.
And you have to, are there specific things that you've done that have helped foster that sort of environment of compassion and curiosity that you have with your staff back at the veterinary clinic? I mean, is that one of obviously 25 years in, it becomes a big piece of your leadership?
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is we talk, my team and I talk a lot about sort of after the fact, when cases, whether they're successes or in the rare circumstances, failures, when there's like issues of complaints or stress or whatnot, we try and be empathetic, and we try and talk about what those people are going through. And it's just become something that we've learned to do as a group and sometimes individually, that we don't take it personally when somebody's, let's say, short with us, a little less appreciative for our work than we think that we think we deserve, and we really don't deserve any of it. We're there to do our jobs, and that's it. We should be able to pat ourselves on the back without needing that pat from those pet owners. But I try and foster as a leader as much empathy and understanding to a point. Like there are times where I fire clients, and I am quick to fire them and say, you're not welcome back here, the second it becomes verbally abusive, or sure, I've never had to get physically abusive. But I think the important thing is, just take a step back and realize people are dealing with problems that you may not recognize. And, if they get mad at you because the bread isn't as crusty as they wanted it, maybe they were trying to impress somebody. And they didn't mean to be so short with you. There was something else going on in their life, right?
And you've got grief that falls into this too. So you're dealing with people who are potentially at the end of life for a pet, for a loved one, and I don't have to deal with that when it's a crusted bread issue.
Well, people take their bread pretty seriously.
Well, that's true, but I mean, that is something that it's a whole nother layer of compassion that your staff has to figure out, and you have to figure out how to navigate. I would imagine that's just not easy to do.
Yeah, it can be difficult. Look, the reality is we talk about this, and I educate the students that come and work for me, like this young woman, Ananya, who left us recently a couple of days ago. Just be honest, like if they're grieving, express support, express comprehension. Don't necessarily try and make it better. Let them grieve. When you make mistakes, own up to them. We had a situation where one of my associates dosaged a heart medication 10 times higher than he should have. And what made it worse, the animal did great in the end, but what made it worse was the owner realized it 3 or 4 days down the road instead of anybody else. And that was something that was missed. Like the veterinarian made the mistake, and then the technician didn't kind of realize this volume of drug seems very high for such a tiny little dog. It was a little chihuahua. And we just, I just educate, or I just train my team to be honest and say, look, we made a mistake. Here's the situation. Or, I have to be honest with you. The prognosis is not good. We're willing to try our best. Here's the situation. And we just give them all the information they need, let them make an informed decision, support them in the grieving process, however that may look. And some people need, hugs and a lot of emotional empathy, and other people need to be left alone. And it's just experience that teaches you how to handle that. But above all, just communicate honestly and compassionately, and people will appreciate it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, I'm a little older than you. I'm 56, and certainly as I start thinking about what's next for me, and purpose becomes a big thing that I think those of us in our 50s start talking about a little bit differently, especially as business owners, because we start, if we can generate any kind of success, we start to have the ability maybe later in our career to do things that we maybe couldn't do as we were scrambling to build our businesses and kind of clawing our way. And we became a 1% for the Planet company this year, which has been important to me. But you talk a little bit about how volunteer work that you did with some wildlife rescue and some things outside of the city a few years ago really was an impetus, almost like a second wind in your career, that there's a lot of burnout in your field, and doing some other stuff, experiencing some other animals and some other unique experiences. Can you talk a little bit about how that sort of gave you a second wind?
Yeah, and I've always loved being a veterinarian. I talk often on my own podcast how, I seem to be one of the few veterinarians that not only love being a veterinarian and have never really felt burnout or compassion fatigue, but I love owning my clinic and I love dealing with my team. Of course, there's stresses, but I love it. But I didn't realize how much passion I was missing until I started volunteering at a wildlife rescue. So about 45 minutes north of my city, there's this place called Shades of Hope Wildlife Rehab. And they're arguably Canada's busiest. They have about 11,000 animals come to them every year. And I started volunteering for them 7 years ago, and 6 years ago maybe, and they had no veterinarian. So I was going in once a week. I didn't really have a lot of wildlife experience, although again, I'm a very good surgeon, very good sort of analytical veterinarian. I'm licensed to do this, but I had to ask them, what drugs can I give this porcupine? Because I know I can't give it certain antibiotics, that sort of thing. And the joke was, I'd be like, if this was a cat, this is what I would do. So you help me help this animal. Like, what can I do? I was only planning to do this for 6 months. It was going to be 1 day a week for 6 months to help me learn about wild animals because of these trips that I was doing. When I went to Jamaica, one of my first days, I had to do surgery on a crocodile. I'd never done surgery on a crocodile, let alone any type of reptile. So I knew I needed to improve things. I loved it so much being able to, the big thing is we see a lot of raptors, a lot of birds of prey, hawks and eagles, and owls with broken wings and broken legs. And I had to learn how to pin them. And then being able to release them back into the wild just became this absolute love for me. And it's why I still go. I am working 6 days a week at my clinic still. And one of those days, Thursdays, I'm out the door at 8 a.m. driving to this wildlife place. I arrive at my clinic at 5, and then I do another 3 or 4 hours at my clinic at night just to see some appointments. So it's a long day. So even on the day I'm volunteering, I'm not taking off from my clinic, but I love it so much that it's created that passion or raised that passion even more for me. And again, I loved what I did. I didn't realize what I was missing. And I encourage people in any industry, consider volunteering, considering giving back. And it'll make you a better professional, whatever your business is, and it'll make you a better human being. It feels good. Feels good.
So
To help
what are the resources that you call on, or who are the people that you call on to learn when you have to deal with an animal that you've never had experience with?
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of the time I ask the non-veterinarians that work there. These are veterinary technicians and wildlife conservationists. And, for example, they would explain to me, okay, we had a bald eagle come to our rescue, and they actually brought it to my clinic because it had come in on a Tuesday, and I did volunteer at the time on Mondays, so it couldn't wait 6 days. It had a broken humerus bone, which is between the shoulder and the elbow. And okay, I can put in a single pin down the length of the bone and replace this. But they were the ones that are able to say, well, no, that's not going to hold. That's not going to be strong enough. This bird is too strong. You're going to need to add some external pins. Okay, how do I do that? All right, well, here's some old x-rays from another veterinarian who used to do it. And here's the book that you've been following. And we basically just work on it together. And the way I look at it is, if you can build a deck out, do some carpentry work and build a deck outside your house, you could probably also install a door. Or, if you can bake muffins, you can bake a cake. There you go, for a baker, right? You may only bake muffins, and obviously it's different baking a cake. But if you follow the recipe and ask someone, hey, is there something I should know? Yeah, you gotta, don't follow the recipe, drop the degrees by 15 degrees and keep it in for a little bit longer if you want that, crusty edge or something. So that's what I did, is I asked people. Now there are times,
I mean, that's so incredibly empowering for that team, right? I mean, now you have been, they're so invested now in your success because they're a part of that. And what a leadership, what a humble way in which to present yourself in that environment, and also gain their trust and their passion and everything else. It's really cool to hear that.
Yeah, I think there's nothing more tragic and arguably dangerous than someone who thinks they know all of it, especially in my field. Like, if you think you know all of it, eventually an animal's going to die.
Sure.
You need to be able to ask questions, receive help, and be willing. This is a problem I've had with veterinarians that occasionally come and do like temporary contract work over the years. Is my team is used to asking questions, and the questions are often a subtle way of saying, are you sure you're doing this right? Like, well, why did you prescribe, that antibiotic for so long? And often they just want to know. But other times it may be, well, Cliff doesn't do it that way. And I'm not saying that his is the only way. This is like going on in their head, but they may be saying, well, why are you doing it for so long? And I've had some veterinarians, they love the questions, they educate the person, everybody learns, everyone comes together. And I've had other veterinarians get angry. And why are you asking me that? Like, just do your job, kind of thing. And those people aren't invited back. Right. They don't have a place at my facility. But yeah, I'm a better veterinarian because I learned to, again, keep my ears open and my mouth shut sometimes. And when my mouth is working, it's usually to ask questions. And now when I see, like, again, I've been at this wildlife place for 6 or 7 years, I'm still surprised and I'm still challenged. But like, I can look at an x-ray of a bird with multiple bones broken, and I can quickly go, all right, we're going to need this, 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 and this. This is what's going to be needed. You guys are going to handle the physiotherapy because I don't know what I'm doing for that. And, prognosis is excellent. And I wouldn't have been able to do that 6 years ago. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool being able to do that.
So with the success of the documentary and the awards and the new podcast, I mean, you had mentioned that there are some opportunities potentially presenting themselves. So what's next for the Dr. Cliff Worldwide Vet brand as you move forward?
Yeah, we're still pushing the TV show, but prognosis isn't great. It's just a tough field to get into. One of the things I'm really focusing on now, and thank goodness I have this because I think my brain always needs these tasks, is I've been journaling and I've been writing my adventures in a book over the years. And I ended up signing with a publisher about 3 months ago. So there is going to be a book coming out, and this is a legit publisher. It's going to be, my kids keep asking, yes, there's going to be an audio book. Yes, there's going to be a digital version. Yes, there's going to be in print, going all around the world. And it's a prequel. It's a prequel to the documentary in the sense of it's all of my travels, some stuff that happened personally. It's kind of like a coming of age story, if you can have that when you're at the time in your 40s. I guess we could always learn regardless of our age. And it ends in Ukraine. It ends with that scene, essentially, or that trip into the war zone. It opens with the scene of the missile striking me, because the editor says you got to grab people in the first page. But I'm really, really excited because it's something that was originally just a passion project of mine that was almost like self-therapy in dealing with some of the challenges and difficulties in these trips. And then now apparently it's good enough to be a book. So that's going to be coming out in a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a ways to go. I'd love to come back on and talk about it, get you a copy. But it's a great book about life lessons and, animal rescues. And it's funny and it's sad and it's personal. I'm looking forward to it.
And we haven't talked a lot about your kids. I mean, that's one of the things, obviously, with the documentary. Your daughter, Emily, I believe, is with you on the trip. I think you have a son who's gone on some of these trips with you as well. How do you look at legacy and family and bringing them into this whole thing?
Yeah, and at times I say, I wish you guys wanted to be veterinarians. None of them are interested in being veterinarians. And Emily's the youngest, and she's 23, so it's not going to happen. And then I have 2 boys that are twins that are 26. But I've still created, I guess, this legacy of being kind to animals, but much more importantly is going out and chasing your dreams. And not being afraid to fail, because I've failed enough times in these attempts, but just constantly trying to chase that next, hurdle and have fun challenging yourself. And I know that's something that they're going to be able to take to their children and to their grandchildren. And, I'd love for this TV show thing to happen, but if it never does, I've got these great memories with all 3 of my children have traveled, mostly Emily, but we have these great memories that are now on, digital that we can watch with its own little soundtrack. So it's just a blessing to be able to give them these lessons. And, again, I learn as much from my kids as they do from me. So yeah, they mean the world to me as they do to any father, obviously, but I have a special bond with my kids because we've been through some tough times together.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending a few minutes today, and continued good luck with the potential for the show, and excited to see the book in a year, and keep in touch. But I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed sharing these insights from folks I truly admire. Be sure and follow the show in your favorite podcast player to be alerted to newly released episodes. And share a comment if you have any feedback or future contributor recommendations.